Hello, this is Palmer, and this is my guide to Crowfall, a new MMO due to launch on July the 6th with a heavy focus on PvP. The game is currently in beta, and that's what I've been playing. The game gives you a choice of 12 races to choose from. You've got the traditional humans and elves, as you see in other MMOs, and a number of unusual races such as centaurs, minotaurs, and stoneborn, who, as the name suggests, appear to be made of stone. Your choice of race really matters in this game. For a start, while there are 11 classes in total, each race can only choose from 3 or 4 different classes. So if you want to play a certain class, you have to choose a compatible race. In addition, races have unique abilities, and in Crowfall these can really make a difference. The Half Giant, for example, has a special attack which can stun an enemy, which is obviously useful in PvP, while the Elkin race has the ability to detect stealthed enemies. The 11 classes once again include some that you will be familiar with, such as clerics, assassins and rangers, as well as some new ones. They include the Myrmidon, if that's how it's pronounced, which is a melee character, or the Confessor, a type of fire mage. However, once you get into the game, you'll find the classes can change dramatically depending on how you spec. The Confessor can actually play as a healer or a tank, for example, as well as a DPS class. Once you've made your character, you'll find you have a choice of worlds to play in. They include player worlds, which are basically player housing. What's unusual about Crowfall is that you don't just get a house, you get a whole zone, which can include various buildings, player-run vendors and more. You can actually expand your zone, adding forests or other bits of land to it to make it larger. There are also guild versus guild worlds, and these are basically the end game of Crowfall. But when you start out, you'll want to go into what is helpfully called the starting world. The game has quite a cartoony art style, and I think it looks good. The user interface is nice and clear, the sound is also good. NPCs don't actually speak to you, there's no voice acting. They make noises similar to in Breath of the Wild, the Zelda game. The game initially looks a lot like a traditional MMO, with NPCs giving you quests to go and do things, including a lot of killing monsters. However, the starting world is really an extended tutorial to teach you about the game mechanics and to get you geared up. Classes each have their own combat mechanic. For example, the Confessor places sin on their opponents as they use fire spells, and eventually you can use an ability to set your enemy alight. The more sin that you put on your enemy, the more damage they receive. The Druid uses up a resource called Essence as they cast spells, and they also have ways to restore their essence, including by sacrificing their own health. So it's all about balancing that. And other classes have their own quirks and special ways of doing things. You level quickly, and every level you get either talent points or attribute points. Attributes are things like strength and dexterity and so on, and the way that you spend your attribute points will depend probably on the class that you're playing. Talent points allow you to buy new skills for your class, or to improve statistics such as attack power or defense power. The talent tree is pretty easy to understand when you look at it, but it will also be clear that you have a lot of choices to make. You'll never have enough points to gain every skill, so the choices that you make do matter. Towards the end of the tree, you'll have to choose what's called a promotion class, sort of an advanced class, and you get 3 options. For example, the Druid can choose to be a ranged DPS class, a healing class, or a hybrid class which does both damage and healing. The hybrid class isn't just a mixture of the other two, it has its own unique abilities. For example, it can summon objects which heal friends if a friend touches it, but can damage enemies. Your promotion class gives you new and powerful abilities, but whichever promotion class you choose, you'll still keep the abilities you've already learned. So you can be a druid who learns healing abilities early on, and then chooses the DPS option for their promotion class. On top of this, characters can equip disciplines. These are actual objects which appear in your inventory and you equip in a similar way to equipping armor or weapons. The difference with a discipline is that while you can change your discipline, if you take out an old one, it vanishes, it gets destroyed. So once you've equipped a discipline, the only way to change it is to actually destroy the ones that you've already equipped. Now, a discipline gives you new abilities. These can be a healing skill, or a skill to buff your party, or a new attack. And there's a wide range to choose from. The disciplines available to you depend on your class, your race, and the choices you made in your talent tree. So the choices are limited, but there's still a lot to choose from, and it means that just about every character can pick up a bit of healing, or some defensive abilities, or some extra DPS abilities, no matter what class you are. Overall, this all means that you have a lot of control over your character's abilities. Of course, this also means that there's a lot of debate about which is the best meta for each class, a lot of theory crafting on the forum, but it seems that there really are different builds which are viable for each class. You can get drops such as weapons and armor from the game world, but Crowfall has a very detailed crafting system, as well as the usual skills such as woodworking, metalworking, alchemy and so on. You have the Necromancy skill, which involves digging up body parts from graveyards which are scattered across the world, and you use these body parts to make new bodies. Once you reach the end game, you actually need these new bodies to level up your character, so this is quite a vital skill. A newbie character can use any gathering skill and any crafting skill, but only at the most basic level. To gather the better materials such as high quality wood or metal, or to craft better quality items, you need to equip certain disciplines. And as I said before, disciplines are items which you equip to your character to learn new skills. However, you can only equip 2 crafting or gathering disciplines at a time. So, for example, you can be an expert at gathering wood and at the woodworking crafting skill, but you can't do that and also be an expert on alchemy at the same time. You have to choose. Now, many advanced items require components which involve a range of different crafting or gathering skills, and that means that you can't do everything yourself, at least not at the higher level, at the more advanced crafting level. So you'll have to work with other people, or just get them to make components for you and buy the components from them. And there are even some resources in the world which can only be obtained by groups of 2 or more people who go out into the world and harvest together. There's no auction house in Crowfall. Instead, you can place a vendor in your own personal housing zone, which is called your Eternal Kingdom, and other people can come to visit them. It means a group of people working together can set up a well-stocked marketplace in their kingdom, because you can sort of share kingdoms and choose one, and everybody can set up their vendor in the same kingdom. So you can create a sort of market village and maybe gain a reputation as a good place for people to go and shop. Obviously, this isn't as convenient as just having an auction house. So, some people will like it and some people will not like it. Once you've made your way through all the quests in the starting zone, you'll have a mount and some gear, and you'll have been taught the basis of crafting and a bit about how the PvP system works, which involves reinforcing, defending and capturing fortresses and keeps. The real end game of Crowfall is guild versus guild PvP, and a lot of players say that you need to join a guild to really enjoy the game. I haven't had a chance to take part in mass PvP. I've been testing the game and taking part in the beta, but here's some footage taken from a channel from YouTuber Blazon LOD, and there's a link to his full video in the description. I'm just going to show a few seconds of it here. The game seems to run very smoothly, even with a lot of people on the screen casting spells. Once it launches, a lot I guess will depend on how many players Crowfall is able to attract and retain. Because PvP is such a focus, I guess it's going to need a reasonably large and active player base to be fun to play. To me, Crowfall looks good, and I'm going to give it a go when it actually launches properly. It's been in playable alpha or beta form for some years now, and that's because it was developed without an NDA from a very early stage, so any alpha testers were free to stream footage or to put footage up on YouTube or just to show their friends. And that's given it, I think, a bit of a bad reputation, because some people saw the game when it was in a very early stage, very different state to today. The devs argue that actually many games, they say, take years to develop. That's not unusual, and many games go through huge changes, as Crowfall has, but it's just that this is normally done behind closed doors and most people don't see it. I think they have a bit of a point there, and I think it's probably fair to judge the game on how it plays now and how it plays at launch, which is very soon. There's also some understandable suspicion, because this is a Kickstarter game. A lot of people are suspicious of Kickstarter games, but it's actually launching. It is a real game. They've made a real working game, and it is launching, so I don't see why that should be an issue myself. However, it's definitely a niche game. It starts off like a traditional MMO with quests to do, but eventually it becomes a very sandboxy and PvP heavy experience. And I guess some people will like that, but others won't. It's not going to be for everybody. That's my guide to Crowfall. Do let me know what you think in the comments below, and thank you very much for watching.